Hello, hello. You are listening through the joy of Instagram Live, and you are listening through my wife's Facebook account. And I am going to do something special for you. I've just launched a podcast, and the podcast is called Respark Your Life. You can go to the major platforms that do podcasts and just type in Respark Your Life or Raymond Aaron and you'll find it. A shortcut is aaron.com, AARON.com/respark. And what I'm going to do in this Instagram Live and my wife's Facebook Live, what I'm going to do is record an episode so that you can actually hear it. And it'll take maybe 10 minutes, and I think you'll enjoy it. And they always have a big moral, a big lesson. And they're all exciting, and they're all from my life. So here we go. Here we go. Yes, this exciting episode of Respark Your Life has the strange title, The Definition of Insanity is Wrong. The definition of insanity is wrong. If you ask anybody for the definition of insanity, they will all tell you the same thing, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, and then everyone dutifully laughs and says, oh yes, how silly are those people who do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. How silly are they? And in fact, you probably don't know the definition of any word in the entire English language, but you know the definition of that, and I'm sorry, you're wrong. It's just not accurate. There are hundreds of thousands of words in the English language, and they each have their own definition. But for some weird reason, that definition of the word insanity is wrong. And I'm going to prove it to you. So come back with me to grade 9. I had just entered grade 9. I was shorter than everybody else. I was sloppily dressed. I was socially awkward because I was a math nerd. I really didn't know much. And somebody came into our class, a teacher, came into our class and said, put up your hand if you want to be on the track team. So I put up my hand. He never asked, do you know what the track team is? Do you know what a track is? Are you a runner, pole vaulter? What are you? I just put up my hand. I have no idea why. And they told me to come out to the field that night after school, so I did. And I noticed that people were wearing their running shoes and shorts, and I realized I hadn't, so I was kind of goofy and embarrassed. But for the second day, I realized I'd better bring running shoes and training clothes and such. And then we had to run around the track, and I realized, oh, that's what track is. You run around the track. And I was short and fat and awkward and didn't know how to play any sports. And so I was told by my coach that I would probably be good in middle distance. And those days, before metrication, it was 440 yards and 880 yards. These days, it's 400 meters and 800 meters. Once around the track or twice around the track. And so that's what I did. And in my very first competition between my school and another school, I came dead last in the 400 meter. And I also came dead last in the 800 meter. And my coach said, don't worry, it's your very first competition. You're just in grade 9, you've just started. And he said, don't worry, things will get better. And so in my second meet with another 2 schools, I came last in the quarter mile and last in the half mile. And in the next interschool competition, and in the next, and in the next, for that entire season, I came dead last, the very last person to cross the finish line. And the coach said, well, that's just in track. Maybe you're really good in one of the field activities. So he suggested the shot put. And I put the shot as hard as I could, and it went a certain distance, but not that far. And I never medaled ever in anything. And that was grade 9. But my woes were not simply that I was horrible in track and field. You see, I was also terrible in my studies. I was getting 50s in basically every subject. music and English and penmanship. We actually had penmanship when I was in grade 9. And my average would have been horribly low, except I was getting 90s in math. And so it looked like my average was 66, but really it wasn't. My average was 50s, and I got 90 in math, so it pulled it up. So here we were in grade 9. I'm terrible in almost all of my studies. I'm terrible after school in my chosen activity. And that went on for the entire school year. But it was worse than that, because when I came back in grade 10, I didn't come last in every race, but maybe I was second to last or third last. I was never, ever anywhere near the people coming first, second, or third. And in my studies again, I was getting 50s, and in math, I got 90. And that went all through grade 9 and all through grade 10. And then in the summer after grade 10, I grew about several inches, like in one summer, and I lost a lot of weight. I don't know how it happened. I didn't do it on purpose. And when I came to school for track, I won my first match. I don't mean I came first, second, or third. I don't mean I got a medal. I mean I won it. I mean the person who crossed the finish line was me. I crossed the finish line first. It was startling, but not just in the quarter mile and in the half mile. And in my second competition, and in my third competition, and in my fourth competition, for that entire season, I came first. And so when the competitions between different schools were over, we then had to go to a regional meet, and I came first. When we went to the all-city meet, I was competing against kids that were running all year long, and I didn't have a chance against them. But I got all the way to the city finals. But not just that, my IQ somehow shot up. I don't know how. Instead of averaging 66%, as I had in my studies in grades 9 and 10, I shot up to 76%, first class honors. Not only that, I was nominated for Junior Athlete of the Year. And so let's look at our definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. I did the same thing over and over again. I practiced the 400, or at then it was called 440. Let's call it the quarter mile and the half mile and the shot put. I practiced those, and I practiced those, and I practiced those, and I got the same result and the same result and the same result. And I studied and studied and studied and got 50s and 50s and 50s in grade 9 and grade 10. And suddenly in grade 11, I won my races. I'd grown a few inches. I'd lost some weight. My average shot up an astounding 10%. And in grade 12, I also won every quarter mile and every half mile and did really well in the shot put. And I also got 76% in all my studies. In grade 13, yes, I'm that old that in my school in Ontario, we still had a grade 13. I didn't do the track and field in my final year because I wanted to work hard to get a good mark to get into university. And my average was 86%, one of the highest in the entire province of Ontario. And so, my friends, we've now come to the realization that the definition of insanity can't be doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, and everyone laughs, how silly are those people? That's the definition of practice. It's a positive thing. You do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. If you're a weightlifter and the most you can lift is 200 pounds, then you keep lifting 200 pounds and you keep lifting 200 pounds and you keep lifting 200 pounds until you can lift 205. And if you're a runner, you keep trying to break the 4-minute mile. You do 4:03, 4:03, 4:03, 4:02, and finally 3:59. Yes, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, is not a silly thing that silly people do. It's the correct thing that correct people do. It is the definition of practice. It's the definition of learning. It's the definition of moving forward. It's a noble and good and valuable thing, and certainly not something to be laughed at. And so what is the moral? The moral is there are many cliches out there. There are many cliches out there where people say, oh, yes, yes, of course. Yes, we know that. Oh, yes, we know that. But I'm a professional speaker. My tools are my words. What do I mean by that? If I were a dentist, my tools would be lots of little silver squiggly things that I would put in people's mouths and a drill and an x-ray. And if I were a butcher, my tools would be some knives. But I'm a professional speaker. My tools are my words. And so I listen to people's words. I listen to the actual words. I listen to the phrases. I listen to the sentences. And mostly, people say the goofiest things, and then other people nod knowingly as if what they said was good. And so here's the lesson I want to leave you with. Don't just accept something because you've heard it before. Don't just accept something because the person who said it is your friend. Don't just accept something because everybody knows it's true. That's a quote, sarcastic quote. Think about it. You might be dazzled at what you learn, because I learn an awful lot when I truly, truly listen. If you've enjoyed this episode, then you can do a couple things. You can just go away and be happy that you enjoyed it. But you know what I'd like you to do? I'd like you to subscribe. I'd like you to come back, and I'd like you to enjoy more of mine. Why? Just because I have so much wealth of wisdom inside me after all these decades of living, and I just want to share it. My purpose this lifetime is to be a teacher, and I'm now using this new platform, a podcast, to be a teacher. On Mondays, there's a 1-hour in-depth interview with a world-famous multimillionaire celebrity, and those last about an hour. And then on Thursdays, there is a Respark Your Life incident from my life, and it always has a moral. And it's always interesting. Even if you just want to know what's going on in Raymond's life, it's interesting. And those take about 10 minutes or so, maybe 15 minutes. Anyways, you've now heard this exciting insight into just because you've heard it before doesn't mean it's true. Just because everybody nods knowingly doesn't mean it's true. Just because lots of people say it doesn't mean it's true. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, is the noble definition of practice. Thank you.